While some may believe that racism is a thing of the past, it still exists in many forms, including the common yet subtle type of casual racism that can have damaging effects on those who experience it. Many of us have grown up in a society that has normalized casual racism without realizing how harmful it can be. We may have made insensitive comments without considering the impact they can have on others. It's important to understand that these seemingly harmless actions can perpetuate systemic racism and contribute to a culture of discrimination. Casual racism can be seen in microaggressions and everyday phrases that are often taken for granted. It is often unintentional, so it is not seen as being malicious, but it can still have a negative effect on those who experience it. Casual racism is different from overt racism, which is more obvious and intentional. Overt racism is usually more direct, while casual racism is often more subtle and may not be immediately recognized as being racist, often making it difficult to recognize or call out. The problem with casual racism is that it is often overlooked or dismissed as harmless or insignificant. This is particularly true when compared to overt acts of racism such as hate speech or violence. The reality is that casual racism can be just as damaging, even if it's not as obvious. Casual racism often involves making assumptions about others based on their race. This can manifest in various forms. While many people may not intend to cause harm, these types of comments can be hurtful and perpetuate harmful beliefs about different races. Additionally, they can make people feel uncomfortable or unwelcome in social situations. Even subtle forms of casual racism can have serious and harmful consequences. The impact of casual racism can be felt in many areas of life, including education, employment, and healthcare. Studies have shown that people who experience racism, even in its subtle forms, are more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety, and may even have lower self-esteem and a lower sense of belonging. Casual racism can lead to feelings of alienation and helplessness, as it can be difficult to recognize or call out. When people are subjected to casual racism, they may not feel comfortable speaking up, and it can often lead to a lack of self-confidence and a reluctance to pursue certain opportunities. This can worsen the problem and lead to a lack of representation in the workplace or in other areas of society, perpetuating the cycle of inequality, often making these systems difficult to dismantle because they are often entrenched and institutionalized. But addressing casual racism is just one step towards creating a more equitable society. Casual racism can also lead to a lack of understanding and empathy. When people are subjected to casual racism, they may be less likely to engage in meaningful conversations about race and racism. This can lead to a lack of understanding between different racial groups, which can further contribute to racial tension and division. Casual racism can create a culture of fear and mistrust. When individuals are subjected to microaggressions and other forms of discrimination on a regular basis, it can be difficult to feel safe and welcome in certain spaces. So, what can we do about casual racism? The first step is to recognize when it happens. This means being aware of our own biases and being willing to call out others when we see them engaging in casual racism. It also means educating ourselves about different cultures and histories, and being open to learning from others. Another important step is to create more inclusive spaces. This can be done by actively seeking out diverse perspectives and experiences, and by creating opportunities for people from different backgrounds to come together and learn from one another. This means supporting efforts to address systemic racism at all levels, from individual interactions to government policies. This can be achieved by advocating for anti-racism policies and practices, supporting organizations that work to combat racism, and engaging in conversations about race and racism with our friends, families, and communities. To build a culture of inclusion, we need to foster understanding and empathy. This means having conversations about race and racism, challenging stereotypes, and recognizing and celebrating diversity. We also need to be aware of our own biases and actively work to challenge any casual racism that may be present in our own words and actions. And instead of blaming or shaming those who have engaged in casual racism, we should try to create a safe space for learning and growth. We can acknowledge that we all make mistakes, but it's never too late to unlearn harmful behaviors and strive for a more inclusive society. By taking the time to educate ourselves on the history and impact of racism, and by actively listening to the experiences of those who have been affected by it, we can begin to break down the barriers that have divided us for so long. Let's work towards building a community that values and celebrates diversity and where everyone feels welcome and respected. Thank you for watching, and let's continue to have these important conversations.